All right. So, live again Sunday evening out here with the word. You know what I mean? Not everyone going to agree with the word, but we still out here to spread the word. So, greetings to everyone who like, follow, share, subscribe, comment, and do whatever. Your guy Rasta Ren, we out here again. Another Sunday afternoon sharing some lost / forbidden knowledge. You know what I mean? So if you're into the truth, if you're into like ancient text, I mean, come on, we all have the Bible. It's been around for how many thousands of years, right? And then we all know there are other texts that's out there that's not in the Bible. So what I've learned over my years of researching, reading through a lot of these texts and stuff like that, you know, I'm not here to indoctrinate anyone. All I'm doing is sharing the information as I find it, sharing with anyone and everyone who willing to look, listen, review, you know, anyone who willing to learn. So that is just my take. Again, Rasta Ren out here another Sunday afternoon with more information from the ancient text. Last week, so we've been looking at the Lost Book of Enki. It's a series of tablets that's been translated. And then Zachariah Sitchin went and canonized them, like put them into chronological order, so to speak. So last week we did tablet 1, the synopsis where the gods, quote unquote gods, of this text, namely Enki, Enlil, Marduk, and a whole bunch of others, you know, they end up in basically they have a war and weapons of mass destruction unleashed and all kind of shit. And after the nuclear fallout, they're actually fleeing and all that stuff. So tablet 1 went back and gave us the whole history of who they are, where they're from. Maybe I need a pop filter. Wonder if it can fit. Anyways, it went back, gave us the whole history, who they are, where they're from, and all that stuff. Their planet Nibiru, where in the solar system it's located. The tablet 1 told us about, you know, the war they had on their planet, how they ended up on Earth and all that stuff. So this week we're gonna go through tablet 2. You know what I mean? So without further ado, not here to waste any time today, you know. Tablet 2, right away.
Synopsis of the second tablet. Enlil's flight in a nuclear-armed spacecraft. He sets his course to Ki, the seventh planet Earth. Why he expects to find gold on Earth. The solar system's cosmogony, Tiamat's water and gold. The appearance of Nibiru from outer space. The celestial battle and Tiamat's breakup. Earth, half of Tiamat, inherits her waters and gold. Kingu, Tiamat's main satellite, becomes the moon of Earth. Nibiru is destined to forever orbit the sun. Enlil's arrival and landing on Earth. Enlil, discovering gold, holds Nibiru's fate in his hands. To snow-hued Earth, Enlil set his course, but secret from the beginning he chose his destination. To regions forbidden, Enlil made his way. No one has gone there before. No one at the hammered bracelet a crossing had attempted. A secret from the beginning Alelu's course has determined. The fate of Nibiru in his hands it placed, by a scheme his kingship to make universal. On Nibiru exile was certain, there death itself he was chancing. In his scheme risk was in the journey, eternal glory of success was the reward. Riding like an eagle, Alelu the heavens scanned. Below, Nibiru was a ball in a voidness hanging. Alluring was its figure, its radiance emblazoned the surrounding heavens. Its measure was enormous, its belchings fire blazed forth. Its life-sustaining envelope, its hue a redness, was like a sea churning. In its midst the breach was distinct, like a darkened wound.
So, if you're following the story correctly, right? Alelu, I like to call Alalu, jump in his spaceship, take off from Nibiru. Remember last week we learned they had a war. Alalu usurped his predecessor, take over the throne, and then Anu usurped Alalu. Now Alalu running away from Shem, right? So Tablet 1 ended when Alalu jumped on the spaceship. Now it's picking up from where he's now taking off from the planet, and it's giving you the basic description of the planet. Basically from as how it looks from outer space, and describing the breach in the atmosphere that they scientifically discovered.
He looked down again. The wide breach turned into a small tub. He looked again. Nibiru's great ball turned into a small fruit. The next time he looked, in the wide dark sea, Nibiru disappeared. Remorse the heart of Alelu grasped. Fear held him in its hands. Decision to hesitation turned. To halt in his tracks Alelu considered. Then from audacity to decision he returned. 100 leagues, 1,000 leagues the chariot was coursing. 10,000 leagues the chariot was journeying. In the wide heavens darkness was the darkest. In the far away distant stars their eyes were blinking. More leagues Alelu traveled. Then a sight of great joy met his gaze. In the expanse of the heavens the celestial's emissary was him greeting. Little Gaga, the one who shows the way, by
Lil Gaga, that's the planet Pluto.
its circuit Alelu was greeting, to him a welcome extending. With a leaning gait before and after the celestial onto, it was destined to travel. To face forward, to face backward, with two facings was it endowed. Its appearance, as first to greet Alelu as a good omen, he at once considered. By the celestial gods he is welcomed, so was his understanding. In his chariot, Alelu followed Gaga's path to the second god of the heavens it was directing. Soon, celestial Antu, its name by King Inshar, was given. In the deep's darkness was looming. Blue as pure waters was her hue, of the upper waters she was the commencement. Alelu by the sight's beauty was enchanted. To course at a distance he continued. In the far beyond, Antu's spouse began to shimmer, by size Antu's the equal. As his spouse's double by a greenish-bluish was An distinguished. A dazzling host encircled it on its side, with firm grounds they were provided. To the two celestials Alelu bade a fond farewell, the path of Gaga still discerning. The way it was showing to its olden master, of whom it was once the counselor. To Anshar, the foremost prince of the heavens, the course was a turning. By the speeding chariot Alelu the ensnaring pool of Anshar could tell.
Anshar, Saturn.
With bright rings of dazzling colors, the chariot it was enchanting. His gaze Alelu to one side quickly turned, that which shows the way with might he diverted. A sight most awesome then to him appeared. In the faraway heavens the family's bright star he discerned. A sight most frightening the revelation followed. A giant monster in its destiny moving upon.
So, probably I was muted when I was making the commentary earlier. But let's follow the story, guys. This is basically telling you about the planets in our solar system. When this guy leaving from Nibiru. From what this is saying, Nibiru is far out past Pluto. It's a reddish planet. So it's going to be hard to see, excuse me, from this distance using any kind of telescope from here on Earth. The James Webb telescope should easily pick that up. Anyways, from Nibiru, on his way inward, he first encountered Little Gaga, right? The dwarf planet, Pluto, right? Then Antu, Neptune, right? Then An, Uranus, right? And now he's giving the encounter of the next planet in from Neptune, from Uranus, which would be Jupiter. I mean Saturn, sorry, which would be Saturn.
The sun a darkening cast, Kishar its creator swallowed. Frightening was the occurrence, an evil omen Alelu indeed thought.
So he's saying, yo, Saturn blocked out the sun from his point of view, and he's like, oh shit, it's some kind of bad luck, right?
The giant Kishar, foremost of the firm planets, its size was overwhelming. Swirling storms obscured its face, colored spots they moved about. A host beyond counting, some quickly, some slowly, the celestial god encircled. Troublesome were their ways, back and forth they were surging. Kishar itself a spell was casting, divine lightnings it was thrusting. As Alelu looked on, his course became upset, his direction was distracted, his doings became confused.
And then Saturn is known for its electrical and its electromagnetic behavior out there in the solar system. It's no secret that Saturn does all these things that are being described here.
Then the deepness darkening began to depart. Kishar on his destiny continued to circuit. Slowly moving, its veil from the shining sun it lifted. The one from the beginning came fully into view. Joy in Alelu's heart was not long lasting. Beyond the fifth planet, the utmost danger was lurking. So indeed he knew. The hammered bracelet ahead was raining. To demolish it was awaiting.
All right. So, yeah, man. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome to the live, you know what I mean? So, we're picking up from last week. We went through the Lost Book of Enki, Tablet 1, where the synopsis was, he gave you the whole history of these so-called gods, quote-unquote gods, their planet, where they're from, where their planet is in the solar system, right? And it ended with the war between when Alalu, I like to call Alalu, went and usurped the then king on the throne on their planet, and then Anu went and usurped Alalu. So Alalu took to the rocket ships and blasted out from his planet. So now Tablet 2 starts by describing his journey in from their end of the solar system. So according to the text, Nibiru, which is their planet, is way out past Pluto, right? And earlier we saw where the first planet he encountered, they call Little Gaga, quote unquote, the dwarf planet Pluto. Then he encountered Antu, which is Neptune, with a bluish hue, right? Then he encountered Uranus, which is about the same size as Neptune, right? Which he called An in the story, right? That's the first three. Then he encountered Saturn with all the electromagnetic reactions, and he describing all the electromagnetic reactions and how it overshadowed the sun from his perspective. Now he's talking about passing that and passing the fifth planet and entering into the quote-unquote hammered bracelet, which again, nothing but what we know as the asteroid belt. You know what I mean? So let's continue.
Of rocks and boulders was it together hammered, like orphans with no mother they banded together. Surging back and forth, a bygone destiny they followed. Their doings were loathsome, troubling were their ways. Nibiru's probing chariots like preying lions they devoured. The precious gold needed for surviving they refused to dislodge. The chariot of Alelu toward the hammered bracelet was headlong moving. The ferocious boulders in close combat to boldly face. Alelu, the firestones in his chariot more strongly stirred up.
So, bruh, I told you, the hammered bracelet, it is the asteroid belt. It is the asteroid belt. Look at the description. It's right there. Boulders, yada, yada. So you have to boost the engine a little bit. That which shows the way with steady hands he directed. So he's steering the shit like crazy, steering it to make sure he don't crash into any of these quote unquote boulders in the hammered bracelet. Bruh. This is the asteroid belt. So he's trying to steer through, not to hit anything.
That which shows the way with steady hands he directed. The ominous boulders against the chariot charged forward like an enemy in battle attacking.
All right.
Toward them, Alelu, a death-dealing missile from the chariot let loose. Then another and another against the enemy, the terror weapons he thrust.
So he unleashed a couple of the cannons. Well, a couple of the rockets. Or what you would call missiles or whatever, right? Blast his way through, basically.
As frightened warriors, the boulders turned back, a path for Alelu granting.
Exactly.
Like by a spell, the hammered bracelet, a doorway to the king, it opened. In the dark deepness of Lelu the heavens could clearly see. By the bracelet's ferocity he was not defeated. His mission was not ended. In the distance, the sun's fiery ball its brilliance was sending forth, welcoming rays toward Alelu it was emitting.
Right. So now this guy came through. He's coming from way out past Pluto, giving his description of what he's going through. Now he's through the asteroid belt and he's seeing the sun clearly and all that stuff. Listen to what happened next.
A red-brown planet on its circuit was coursing, the sixth in the count of celestial gods it was. Alelu could but glimpse it. On its destined course from Alelu's path it was quickly moving. The snow-hued earth appeared, the seventh in the celestial count.
Again, those celestial gods are the planets, bruh.
Toward the planet Alelu set his course, to a destination most inviting. Smaller than Nibiru was its alluring ball, weaker than Nibiru's was its attracting net.
So Earth's gravity, way weaker than Nibiru's gravity. Earth, in size, volume, way smaller than Nibiru.
Its atmosphere thinner than Nibiru's was.
All
Clouds
right.
were within it swirling. Below, the Earth to three regions was divided, snow white at the top, and on the bottom, blue and brown in between. Deftly, Alelu spread the chariot's arresting wings around the Earth's ball to circle. In the middle region, dry lands and watery oceans he could discern. The beam that penetrates downward he directed, Earth's innards to detect.
All right. So this guy from his spaceship is literally scanning the planet, like scanning the planet to see what the planet is made of. That's similar to what we can do now, right? Like we have all this technology, we can scan shit and tell you, oh, this is made of this material, right? So that's what he's doing from his spaceship.
I have attained it, ecstatically he shouted. Gold, much gold, the beam has indicated. It was beneath the dark-hued region. In the waters it was too.
All right. So he detecting gold in the dark-hued regions, the black sand, black soil, right? And in the waters.
With pounding heart, Alelu a decision was contemplating. Shall he on the dry land his chariot bring down, perchance to crash and die? Shall he to the waters his course direct, to perchance into oblivion sink? Which way shall he survive? Will he the treasured gold discover? In the eagle's seat Alelu was not stirring, to fate's hands the chariot he entrusted.
So he just sitting there and being like panic and shit. Yo, should I land on water where I could probably sink and die? Should I go on the land where you can probably just crash and explode? And he's like, you know what? Let's just leave this to destiny. He's like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens, bro.
Fully caught in Earth's attracting net, the chariot was moving faster. Its spread wings became
Gravity.
aglow, Earth's atmosphere like an oven was.
Okay.
Then the chariot shook, emitting a mortifying thunder. With abruptness, the chariot crashed, with a suddenness altogether stopping. Senseless from the shaking, stunned by the crash, Alelu was without moving.
So this guy knocked out when it crashed.
Then he opened his eyes and knew he was among the living. At the planet of gold he victoriously arrived. Now this is the account of the earth and its gold.
So, we're following the story, right? He crashed down on Earth in the water, right? Well, you're going to see that it's in the water shortly. Or the swamp or whatever. So, they're going to give the account of Earth and its gold. Next story.
It is an account of the beginning and how the celestial gods created were. In the beginning, when in the above the gods in the heavens had not yet been called into being, and in the below key the firm ground had not yet been named. Alone in the void there existed Apsu, their primordial begetter.
Sound a lot like the same theory we have of how the universe was created, right? Where in the beginning there was nothing but just the void and what we call the primordial waters is what science describe it as, right?
In the heights of the above, the celestial gods had not yet been created.
So in other words, the planets were not yet formed. The only thing that existed was the energy, basically.
In the waters of the below, the celestial gods had not yet appeared. Above and below, the gods had not yet been formed. Destinies were not yet decreed.
Exactly. So no planets were formed. Nothing is in any orbits. There's nothing. Like basically, as the Bible says, in the beginning, there was just God, right? This is it, the Absu.
No reed had yet been formed, no marshland had appeared. Alone did Apsu reign in the void. Then by his winds the primordial waters were mingled. A divine and artful spell Apsu upon the waters cast. On the void's deep he poured a sound sleep. Tiamat, the mother of all, as a spouse for himself he fashioned.
Tiamat sounds very close to Thea, right? That the current model of science claims that Earth was formed from. Isn't Tiamat close to Thea? Think about it, bro. The current model of science says Earth came from this giant planet called Thea, Thea. And now you're looking at another text telling you about Tiamat, which is one of the first planets to be formed in our solar system.
A celestial mother, a watery beauty she was indeed.
A water
Beside him, Apsu, little
a
Manu,
water
he
giant.
brought forth. As his messenger, he him appointed a gift for Tiamat to present. A gift resplendent to his spouse Apsu granted. A shining metal, the everlasting gold, for her alone to possess. Then it was that the two their waters mingled, divine children between them to bring forth. Male and female were the celestials created. Lamu and Lahamu, by names they were called.
So, more planets start appearing from the appearance of the sun and Tiamat, the Apsu and Tiamat, the sun and Thea, this water giant.
In the below did Apsu and Tiamat make them an abode. Before then had grown in age and in stature. In the waters of the above, Anshar and Kishar were formed.
All right. So the waters of the below, closer to the sun. The waters of the above, farther from the sun.
Surpassing their brothers in size they were. As a celestial couple the two were fashioned. A son, On, in the distant heavens was their heir. Then Ontu, to be his spouse, as On's equal was brought forth.
All right. So now we're talking about Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. You already saw Lamu and Lahamu with Tiamat in the lower waters, right? Closer to the sun, right? Let's continue.
As a boundary of the upper waters their abode was made. Thus were three heavenly couples below and above, in the depths created. By names they were called the family of Apsu, with Mamu and Tiamat they formed. At that time Nibiru had not yet been seen. The earth was not yet called into being. Mingled were the heavenly waters. By a hammered bracelet they were not yet separated.
All right. So basically, there's nothing in any special orbit. Everyone just commingling and doing their own thing around the sun, right? Similar to what the current model of science explains, that in the beginning of the solar system, there were all these planets, more than we have now, just doing crazy, chaotic things around the sun until something happened and they went into orbit, right? Let's continue.
At that time, circuits were not yet fully fashioned. The destinies of the gods were not yet firmly decreed.
Sila.
Celestial kinfolk banded together, erratic were their ways. Their ways to Apsu were verily loathsome. Tiamat, getting no rest, was aggrieved and raged. A throng to march by her side she formed. A growling, raging host against the sons of Apsu she brought forth. With all 11 of this kind she brought forth. She made the firstborn Kingu chief among them. When the celestial gods of this did hear, for council they rallied.
So this is just kind of like a personification and a way to explain the way the planets are interacting with each other. You know, things that are happening to put things into the orbit we know today.
Kingu she has elevated to rank as on command to him she gave to each other, they said.
And Kingu is the moon, by the way.
A tablet of destiny to his chest she has attached, his own circuit to acquire. To battle against the gods, her offspring Kingu she instructed.
But this is saying how I would understand this. When all these planets formed and all these crazy thing happened, right? Tiamat, this water giant planet, based on its interaction with the rest of the things, the rest of the matter that's in the solar system, form this other celestial body called Kingu, right? And then after forming Kingu, based on what it's saying, it kind of fling Kingu off, fling Kingu off to go and form its own orbit or some crap. So let's follow.
Shall stand up to Tiamat, the gods ask each other. None in their circuits step forward. None a weapon for battle would bear. At that time, in the heart of the deep, a god was engendered. In a chamber of fates, a place of destinies was he born. By an artful creator was he fashioned. The son of his own son he was.
Alright, so now this is the birth of Nibiru. They call it Marduk here, I believe.
From the deep where he was engendered, the god from his family in a rushing departed. A gift of his creator, the seed of life, with him away he carried.
Okay.
To the void he set his course, a new destiny he was seeking. The first to glimpse the wandering celestial was the ever-watchful Antu. Alluring was his figure, a radiance he was beaming. Lordly was his gait, exceedingly great was his course. Of all the gods he was the loftiest, surpassing theirs his circuit was.
Alright. So this is saying this planet appeared somewhere near Neptune. Alright. For the first time, appeared somewhere near Neptune. And started a course outwards.
The first to glimpse him was Antu. Her breast by child never sucked. Come, be my son, she called to him. Let me your mother become. She cast her net and made him welcome, made his course for the purpose suited. Her words filled the newcomer's heart with pride. The one who would nurse him made him haughty. His head to doubled size grew larger. 4 members at his sides he sprouted.
Alright. So now, this new planet that appeared also sprouted 4 others, 4 other celestial bodies.
He moved his lips in acceptance, a godly fire from them blazed forth.
Volcanic activity.
Toward Antu his course he turned, his face to On soon to show. When On saw him, my son, with exaltation he shouted. To leadership you shall be consigned, a host by your side will be your servants. Let Nibiru be your name, a crossing forever known.
Alright, so this is the birth of Nibiru.
He bowed to Nibiru, turning his face at Nibiru's passage. He spread his net for Nibiru, 4 servants he brought forth.
So this is kind of like explaining why Uranus is on its side. is saying that it bowed its head to Nibiru. Because according, if you think of it scientifically, the gravitational pull of Nibiru would have caused Neptune, Uranus, to fall over, bringing its north pole down, and now rolling around on its side.
His host by his side to be the south wind, the north wind, the fast wind, and the west wind. With joyful heart on to Anshar his forebear the arrival of Nibiru announced. Anshar, upon this hearing, Gaga, who was by his side as an emissary, sent forth words of wisdom to On deliver, a task to Nibiru to assign. He charged Gaga to give voice to what was in his heart, to On thus say, Tiamat, she who bore us, now detests us. She has set up a warring host. She is furious with rage.
So this is basically kind of like expressing the opposing forces of the planets. You know what I mean? At this point, when Gaga encounter Tiamat, it kind of gets flung inwards to encounter Nibiru, it gets flung inwards toward Tiamat. It's what I would imagine here.
Against the gods, her children, 11 warriors march by her side. Kingu among them she elevated, a destiny to his chest she attached without right. No god among us against her venom can stand up. Her host in us all has fear established.
So basically it's saying that in this whole exchange of electromagnetic energy, Tiamat, so-called Thea, this water giant, had the most gravitational and electromagnetic influence other than the sun itself.
Let Nibiru become our avenger. Let him vanquish Tiamat. Let him save our lives.
And now when Nibiru appear with such comparative force and with even with fire belching from it, which is, as you know, fire opposed to water, you know what I mean? You can see the opposition here, right?
For him decree a fate. Let him go forth and face our mighty foe. To On Gaga departed. He bowed before him. The words of Anshar he repeated. On to Nibiru his forebears' words repeated. Gaga's message to him he revealed. To the words Nibiru with wonder listened. Of the mother who would her children devour, with fascination he heard. His heart, without saying, to set out against Tiamat him already prompted.
So, remember, Nibiru, Tiamat had no influence on the birth of Nibiru. Nibiru just appeared out of the blue, like close to Neptune, right? Tiamat had no influence that far out in the solar system. So this planet, or this god, knows nothing about Tiamat or Thea. So everybody telling, yo, this Ray. You know what I mean? You can see the opposition of forces. Basically just explaining the opposition of forces.
He opened his mouth to On and Gaga he thus said, If indeed I am to vanquish Tiamat, your lives to save, convene the gods to assembly, my destiny proclaim supreme.
And Nibiru was the first planet, according to this story, in the solar system to be birthed with the seed of life.
Let all the gods agree in council to make me the leader, bow to my command. When Lamu and Lahamu heard this, they cried out with anguish. Strange was the demand, its meaning cannot be fathomed, thus they said. The gods who decree the fates with each other consulted. To make Nibiru their avenger they all agreed. To him an exalted fate decreed. From this day on, unchangeable shall be your commandments, to him they said. No one among us gods shall transgress your bounds. Go, Nibiru, be our avenger. They fashioned for him a princely circuit toward Tiamat to proceed.
So, if you think about it, from the influence of these outer planets, the gravitational force, you would say now, influences the way Nibiru's orbit in the solar system. So, to put it simply, their gravitational force is flinging Nibiru towards Tiamat.
They gave Nibiru blessings. They gave Nibiru awesome weapons. Anshar, 3 more winds of Nibiru brought forth: the evil wind, the whirlwind, the matchless wind. Kishar, with a blazing flame, filled his body, a net to enfold Tiamat therewith. Thus, ready for battle, Nibiru toward Tiamat directly set his course. Now this is the account of the celestial battle, and how the earth-led come to be, and of Nibiru's destiny. The Lord went forth, his fated course he followed. Toward the raging Tiamat he set his face, a spell with his lips he uttered. As a cloak for protection he the pulsar and the emitter put on. With a fearsome radiance his head was crowned.
The pulsar and the emitter he put on. Think about it. This is some electromagnetic energy being exchanged between the planets. So now you're seeing the aurora borealis, the crown that he put on.
On his right he posted the smiter, on his left the repeller he placed. The 7 winds, his host of helpers, like a storm he sent forth. Toward the raging Tiamat he was rushing, clamoring for battle. The gods thronged about him, then from his path they departed. To scan Tiamat and her helpers alone he was advancing.
All right. Again, so if we think about it, these planets, their influences has flung Nibiru into our Tiamat, and now they're going back into where they come. They're going basically turning back, basically, because their influence is done. So you know what I mean. Basically, if you follow the curve, they're gonna curve backwards.
The scheme of Kingu, her host commander, to conceive. When he saw valiant Kingu, blurred became his vision. As he gazed upon the monsters, his direction was distracted. His course became upset. His doings were confused. Tiamat's band tightly her encircled. With terror they trembled. Tiamat to her roots gave a shudder. A mighty roar she admitted. On Nibiru she cast a spell, engulfed him with her charms. The issue between them was joined. The battle was unavoided.
All right. So now it's saying their energies are now interacting. So they definitely have to collide, or something's going to happen between the two of them, because the energies are interacting. So something is going to happen. Electromagnetic pulse is being flung on all this shit.
Face to face they came, Tiamat and Nibiru. Against each other they were advancing. They for battle approached. They pressed on for single combat.
Crash course. Basically, they're on a collision course.
The Lord spread his net. To encompass her he cast it. With fury Tiamat cried out. Like one possessed she lost her senses. The evil wind which had been behind him Nibiru drove forward. In her face he let it loose. She opened her mouth, the evil wind to swallow, but could not close her lips. The evil wind charged her belly. Into her innards it made its way.
So basically, from this interaction, this planet Tiamat cracked open and could not close from this energy. So it's key. All right, continue. Her innards are howling. All right.
Her innards were howling. Her body was distended. Her mouth was open wide. Through the opening, Nibiru shot a brilliant arrow, a lightning most divine.
Lightning. A lightning. I told you about the electromagnetic. Bro, I said it. It's the electromagnetic interaction. Shot a lightning. Alright?
It pierced her innards. Her belly it tore apart. It tore into her womb. It split apart her heart. Having thus subdued her, her life breath he extinguished.
So basically, from this interaction, Tiamat popped in half. Boom.
The lifeless body Nibiru surveyed, like a slaughtered carcass Tiamat now was. Beside their lifeless mistress, her 11 helpers trembled with terror. In Nibiru's net they were captured. Unable they were to flee.
So Nibiru's gravity now captured those 12 bodies that were orbiting Tiamat.
Who by Tiamat was made the host chief, was among them. The Lord put him in fetters. To his lifeless mistress he bound him. He wrested from Kingu the tablets of destinies, unrightly to him given, stamped it with his own seal, fastened the destine to his own chest. The others of Tiamat's band as captives he bound, in his circuit he them ensnared. He trampled them underfoot, cut them up to pieces. He bound them all to his circuit, to turn around he made them, backward to course.
So it's basically describing how the energies from this planet Nibiru captured and destroyed all 12 bodies that were orbiting this planet Tiamat after it had split Tiamat in two.
From the place of the battle, Nibiru then departed. To the gods who had him appointed the victory to announce. Gaga
so
came out to greet him. As a herald to the others he then journeyed. Beyond on and onto Nibiru to the abode in the deep proceeded. The fate of lifeless Tiamat and of Kingu he then considered. To Tiamat, whom he had subdued, the Lord Nibiru then returned.
So these planets flung it in. He came in and caused all that destruction. He'd orbit back out, right? And now it's orbiting back in.
He made his way to her, paused to view her lifeless body, to artfully divide the monster into his heart lie was planning. Then, as a muscle, into two parts he split her. Her chest from her lower parts he separated. Her inner channels he cut apart, her golden veins he beheld with wonder. Trotting upon her hinder part, the Lord her upper part completely severed.
All right, so on the second circuit, it actually completely cut this other half that was already split open completely off.
The north wind, his helper, from his side he summoned. To thrust away the severed head, the wind he commanded, in the void to place it. Nibiru wind upon Tiamat then hovered, sweeping upon her gushing waters. Nibiru shot a lightning. To the north wind he gave a signal. In a brilliance was Tiamat's upper part to a region unknown carried. With her the bound Kingu was also exiled, of the severed part a companion to be.
All right.
The hinder part's fate Nibiru then considered. As an everlasting trophy of the battle he wished it to be.
So at this point the moon is already locked with this upper part of Tiamat.
A constant reminder in the heavens, the place of the battle to enshrine. With his mace, the hinder part he smashed to bits and pieces. Then he strung them together as a band to form a hammered bracelet. Locking them together as watchmen he stationed them, a firmament to divide the waters from the waters.
So this is their explanation of how the whole what we call the asteroid belt was created based on the interaction between these planets and these early bodies that were in the solar system.
The upper waters above the firmament from the waters below it he separated. Artful works Nibiru thus fashioned. The Lord then crossed the heavens to survey the regions. From Apsu's quarter to the abode of Gaga he measured the dimensions. The edge of the deep Nibiru then examined. Toward his birthplace he cast his gaze. He paused and hesitated. Then to the firmament, the place of the battle, slowly he returned. Passing again in the Apsu's region, of the sun's missing spouse he thought with remorse. He gazed upon Tiamat's wounded half. To her upper part he gave attention. The waters of life, her bounty from the wounds were still pouring. Her golden veins Apsu's rays were reflecting. the seed of life, his creator's legacy, Nibiru then remembered. When he trod on Tiamat, when he split her asunder, to her the seed he surely imparted.
All right. So basically, this is saying life was seeded on Earth based on the interaction between Nibiru and this old water giant called Tiamat that was basically split in half and destroyed and all that crap.
He addressed words to Apsu, to him thus saying, with your warming rays to the wounds give healing. Let the waters to one place be gathered, let firm land appear. By firm land let her be called Ki, henceforth her name to be.
Ki, Chi, and Ki. Wow. Ki, right? Which means earth in a lot of languages.
Apsu to the words of Nibiru gave heed. Let the earth join my family. Ki, firm land of the below, let earth her name henceforth be. By her turning let their day and night be. In the days my healing rays to her I shall provide. Let Kingu be a creature of the night, to shine at night I shall appoint him, earth's companion, the moon forever to be.
Remember, Kingu was already in the early interactions when Tiamat formed Kingu and flung it out into the atmosphere, into the whole solar system, and Nibiru came charging and stuck. All right, follow the story.
Nibiru the words of Apsu with satisfaction heard. He crossed the heavens and surveyed the regions. To the gods who had him elevated he granted permanent stations. Their circuits he destined that none shall transgress nor fall short of each other.
All right. So, from what this is saying, from the interaction of Nibiru with the entire solar system, right? Nibiru's influence on the solar system is what stabilized everything out of chaos.
He strengthened the heavenly locks. Gates on both sides he established.
Right.
An outermost abode he chose for himself. Beyond Gaga were its dimensions. The great circuit to be his destiny he beseeched Apsu for him to decree.
Right.
All the gods spoke up from their stations. Let Nibiru's sovereignty be surpassing. Most radiant of the gods he is. Let him truly the son of the sun be. From his quarter Apsu gave his blessing. Nibiru shall hold the crossing of heaven and earth. Crossing shall be his name.
So basically, Nibiru transverses the entire solar system in its circuit, bro. Like, it passes all the planets, comes by the sun, and goes back all the way out.
The gods shall cross over neither above nor below. He shall hold the central position. The shepherd of the gods he shall be. A shar shall be his circuit. That his destiny will forever be. Now this is the account of how the olden times began, and of the era that in the annals the golden era by name was known, and how from Nibiru to earth the missions went the gold to obtain. The escape of Alelu from Nibiru was its beginning. With great understanding was Alelu endowed, much knowledge he by learning acquired. By his forefather Anshargal of the heavens and the circuits much knowledge was amassed.
Now remember, guys, Nibiru is this planet that lives way out in the solar system. Modern science does not say anything about Nibiru, other than the fact that there's evidence that something way out past Pluto is influencing our solar system. That's the only public information I know of where Nibiru, where any reference to anything Nibiru related has ever been mentioned. Now, from this book, right, the Lost Book of Enki, we're learning that Nibiru is this planet that in the early days of the solar system appeared somewhere near Neptune, right? And based on its interaction with Neptune and Saturn and Jupiter and Uranus, it grew a lot in size and grew a lot in influence over the solar system, meaning it has more gravity. It grew in gravitational forces, electromagnetic forces, and all the known forces, right? And from what we're learning here, its orbit is it comes close to the sun, then it goes all the way out past Pluto and comes back in. So it's on an elongated orbit that comes really close to the sun and then far, far out. Okay? And from what we're learning here, each time it traverses each shar, it does something.
By Inshar was knowledge greatly augmented. Of that, Alelu made much learning.
And then you have these guys, Alelu, Enki, Enlil, and all these people, Ninharshag and all them that came from this planet Nibiru, that came and did a whole bunch of stuff on Earth, which we're going to learn in the future tablets.
The sages he discoursed, savants and commanders he consulted. Thus was knowledge of the beginning ascertained. Thus did Alelu this knowledge possess. The gold in the hammered bracelet was the confirmation. The gold in the hammered bracelet of gold in Tiamat's upper half was the indication. At the planet of gold, Alelu victoriously arrived, high, chariot with a thunder crashing. With a beam he scanned the place, his whereabouts to discover. High, chariot on dry land descended. At the edge of extended marshes it landed.
So it might landed in the marsh. It crashed down in the marshlands, pretty much knocked out. Right. So back to Alelu's story. Alelu left Nibiru because he got dethroned, basically. Right. Ran away in shame. Right. Came past all these planets. Came to Earth. Right. So when he woke up, the story went back and gave you their explanation as to how they think the solar system was created, okay? Which is surprisingly similar to our modern explanation of this thing anyway. That aside, we're now back to where Alelu is now scanning because he realized that, oh shit, based on what we learned on our planet, this gotta be true because here is all this gold on this planet, right?
He put on an eagle's helmet, he put on a fish's suit. The chariot's hatch he opened. At the open hatch he stopped to wonder. Dark-hued was the ground, blue-white were the skies. No sound there teased, there was no one to bid him welcome.
No sound there was, actually. So basically, it's not noisy like back on their planet where there's a lot of other beings walking around, running around, kids making noise and all that stuff. You know, it's just animals. It's just nature, basically.
Alone on an alien planet he stood, perchance from Nibiru forever exiled.
Right.
To the ground himself he lowered, on the dark-hued soil he stepped. There were hills in the distance, nearby much vegetation there was. Ahead of him there was marshes. Into the marsh he stepped. By the water's coolness he shuddered.
Right, so the water cool is like, ooh.
Back to the dry ground he stepped.
Alone on an alien planet he stood.
With thoughts he was possessed, of spouse and offspring with longing he remembered.
So it's like remembering Jano left my baby mama at home, my kids at home. He's now missing them, right? Wondering, will I be forever exiled on this planet?
Was he forever from Nibiru exiled? Of that again and again he wondered. To the chariot he soon returned, with food and drink to be sustained. Then deep sleep him overcame, a powerful slumber. How long he slept he could not remember. What awakened him he could not tell. A brightness there was outside, a brilliance on Nibiru unseen. A pole from the chariot he extended, with a tester it was equipped. It breathed the planet's air, compatibility it indicated.
So, he woke up from the brilliant sunlight. We all know how bright the sunlight is and how beautiful, especially if you're in like the Caribbean or Africa, one of those nations that's close to the equator, right? You know how beautiful that sunlight is. You know what I mean? So the sunlight, he's in this glass thing, right? And the sunlight hit his face. You know what that is when you're laying in your room and all of a sudden the sunlight just bam. You know what I mean? So he woke up, test the air, realized that, oh shit, this is breathable air.
The chariot's hatch he opened. At the open hatch he took a breath.
Right.
Another breath he took, then another and another.
Mm-hmm.
The air of Ki indeed compatible
Ooh,
was.
yeah.
Enlil clapped his hands, a
Song of joy he was singing.
Without an eagle's helmet, without a fish's suit, to the ground himself he lowered.
So he no longer needs a spacesuit or anything to protect him. He realized, oh, everything is compatible. I can just walk outside, right?
The brightness outside was blinding. The rays of the sun were overpowering. Into the chariot he returned. A mask for his eyes he donned. He
eyeglasses.
Picked up the carried weapon. He picked up the handy sampler.
Carried weapon, the handgun.
To the ground himself lie lowered. On the dark-hued soil he stepped.
Mm-hmm.
He made his way toward the marshes. Dark greenish were the waters.
We all know the marsh waters are, right?
By the marsh's edge there were pebbles. Alelu picked a pebble. Into the marsh he thrust it. In the marsh a moving his eyes glimpsed. The waters with fishes were filled. Into the marsh the sampler he lowered. The murky waters to consider. For drinking the water was not fit. Alelu greatly disappointing.
All right.
He turned away from the marshes in the direction of the hills he wont. He
went, basically. So he went from the marshes into the hills, walked through the bushes.
His way through vegetation, bushes to trees gave way. The place was like an orchard. The trees with fruits were laden.
Right. Trees filled with fruits. Bruh. This is heaven, right? Early earth is not heaven. This is early earth. But when these guys first landed, all the animals and everything was all natural, because again, from the interactions with Nibiru, which had came into existence with the seed of life, right? And then earth getting some of that seed life seeded from Nibiru. I mean, fish and all this was here. Fish and fruits was here when by the time Alelu landed.
By their sweet smell enticed, Alelu picked a fruit. In his mouth he put it. Sweet was the smell, sweeter the taste was. Alelu greatly it delighted. Away from the sun's rays Alelu was walking. Toward the hills he set his direction. Among the trees a wetness under his feet he sensed, a sign of close-by waters. In the direction of the wetness he set his course. In the midst of the forest there was a pond, a pool of silent waters. Into the pond the sampler he lowered. For drinking the water was good. Alelu laughed. An unstopping laughter seized him.
'Cause now he realized, wait a minute. I'm no longer gonna die on this alien planet. I mean, there's food, there's water, I don't have to work. There's no one to give me any problems. The only thing I miss is my woman and children.
The air was good. The water for drinking was fit. There was fruit. There were fishes.
Yes.
With eagerness, Alelu bent down. Together his hands he cupped. Water to his mouth he brought. A coolness did the water have. A taste from Nibiru's water
different.
Once more he drank. Then with fright he asunder jumped. A hissing sound he could hear.
A slithering body
by the poolside was moving.
A slithering body. What kind of animal is that? A slithering body. Near the water, by the way.
Carried weapon he seized.
A blast of its ray.
Toward the hissing he directed. The moving stopped.
The hissing was ended.
To examine the danger, Alelu stepped forward.
A slithered body
lay still. Dead was the creature, a sight most strange. Like a rope its long body was. Without hands or feet was the body.
All right. No. Remember, we don't have any reference about the Garden of Eden as yet. But let's read the description again. The slithered body lay still. Dead was the creature. Right? A sight most strange. So Alalu has never seen anything like this. Like a rope, its long body was, right? Without hands or feet was the body. Fierce eyes were in its small head. Out of its mouth, a long tongue was sticking. Snake, right? This is the serpent, guys. Like, this is a snake being described with in early history, with no reference being made at any time to the Garden of Eden. Now, we're going to see where the Garden of Eden comes in way down in the story. A sight on Nibiru never beheld. So there are no snakes on Nibiru apparently, or worms, or any handless or footless creatures for that matter. It either has hands or feet, right, on their planet. From what this is saying, because they never seen anything like this before. So I guess slugs don't exist there. Snails don't exist there. Okay.
Fierce eyes were in its small head. Out of its mouth a long tongue was sticking. A sight on the Nibiru never beheld it was. A creature
of another world.
Was it the orchard's guardian? Enlil by himself pondered. Was it the water's master? Himself he asked.
So this guy imposing his old belief from his old system on his old planet on this new thing that he's seeing on this planet. Like, wait, is this a guardian of the water? Or is this kind of some god or some master or something? Think.
In his carried flask he some water collected. With alertness to the chariot he made his way. The sweet fruits he also picked. To the chariot he set his course.
Right.
The brightness of the sun's rays was greatly diminished. Darkness it was as the chariot he reached. The shortness of the day Enlil pondered. Its shortness him amazed.
Right, because on their planet he's like, wait a minute. A day is not supposed to be over as yet. It's much longer than this.
From the direction of the marshes, a cool lightness on the horizon was rising. A white-hued ball in the heavens was quickly rising.
King you,
the earth's companion, he now beheld.
The moon.
What in the accounts of the beginning his eyes the truth could now see. The planet.
So, he is now confirming, standing here on earth, confirming their old theology from their old planet as to how they explained how the solar system came into being. So he's standing here looking at King Yu, the moon, Earth, formed from Tiamat, with gold in its veins, according to the story. And he already detected that Earth had so much gold, and that Nibiru had seeded life to Earth based on their interactions in the early days of the formation of the solar system. He's standing here confirming all of that to be true, right? He's confirming their old theology from their old planet to be true on this alien planet.
Planets and their circuits, the hammered bracelet, Ki, the earth, King Yu, its moon, all created were, all by names were called. In his heart, Enlil knew one more truth a beholding needed.
The gold.
The means of salvation to be found was needed. If the truth be in the beginning tales, if by the waters the golden veins of Tiamat were washed, in the waters of Ki, its cut off half, gold must be found.
Right. So, he's saying, bro, if the stories are true, and thus far from what I'm seeing, it looks like it all true, then that means there's a lot of gold here. So I need to go digging to find where it is.
With hands unsteady, Enlil, the tester from the chariot's pole, dismantled. With trembling hands the fish's suit he donned, the fast arriving daylight eagerly awaiting. At daybreak the chariot he exited, to the marshes he quickly stepped.
So the guy not even sleep the night, he's just sitting there wondering about it like, bro, we need to go find the gold, And as daybreak, he's like, on it.
Into deeper waters he waded, the tester into the waters he inserted.
Mm-hmm.
Its illuminated face He eagerly watched. In his chest, his heart was pounding. The water's contents was the tester indicating, by symbols and numbers, its findings disclosing. Then Alelu's heartbeat stopped. There is gold in the waters, the tester was telling.
All right. So now he's confirming, because he scanned the planet from orbit and it says there's gold. He crash landed, right? Tested again and it says there's gold, but he's yet to see any. So he's now testing again in the waters and everything, and it says yes, there is gold.
Unsteady on his legs, Alelu stepped
so
forward.
Now he's
Deeper into the
shaking like,
marshes he made his way.
yo,
Again,
excitement.
he, the tester, into the waters inserted. Again, the tester, gold announced.
Yes.
A cry of triumph from Alelu's throat emanated. Nibiru's fate in his hands now was.
Exactly. Can you imagine, bro? Like, you've been told this story all your life growing up. Now you have the opportunity to go and confirm that all this is, and you're actually testing with proven instruments that, yo, this is actually fact. Yo, you can't imagine the excitement, bro.
Back to the chariot he made his way. The fish's suit off he took. The commander's seat he occupied.
Yes.
The tablets of destinies that knows all circuits he enlivened. To Nibiru's circuit to find a direction.
The speaker of words he stirred up.
Toward Nibiru the words to carry. Then to Nibiru words he uttered. Thus he was saying, the words of the great Alelu to Anu on Nibiru are directed.
So this guy turning his stuff on and turning on his radio and stuff and be like, yo, Alelu to Nibiru, come in. Gold discovered on Earth. Alelu reporting from Earth. Alelu to Nibiru, come in. Bruh. Tell me if I'm wrong.
The world I am, the gold of salvation I have found. The fate of Nibiru is
in my hands.
To my conditions
you must give heed. Okay, so he's going back to fight for his seat. Because remember, right? With Alelu, he dethroned the guy that was running things on his planet. He dethroned his king, basically back on their own home planet, right? And then after dethroning their king, right? Anu, his competitor, or his half-brother, you could call it, went and dethroned him. So he shamefully ran away from Nibiru, came to Earth on a quest to find the gold, because they needed gold to save their atmosphere, according to the story. Right? So now he's on Earth, he discovered the gold, he's beaming back home like, yo, Alelu to Nibiru. Look, I'm on Earth, I found the gold. So the fate of Nibiru is in my hands. You better do what I say. Tell me if I'm wrong. Am I stupid for thinking that? Anyways. That is it for this week's episode, guys. Let me say I appreciate everyone who came out, participated, liked, shared, subscribed. You know what I mean? I must say I appreciate everyone who supports the channel. I'm trying to grow this channel. I want to call it the Humble Opinions Podcast. What the hell is that? I want to call it the Humble Opinions Podcast, right? And I'm not here to indoctrinate anybody. I'm not here to change your belief system or anything. I like doing research. I like educating myself on stuff. My hobby is to educate myself on things that I wouldn't otherwise be knowledgeable of. So as I find information, I just share the information, and that is it for me. That's all I want to do, is to share what I find. It's up to you to determine, what you get from it. If it affects your belief system, that's on you. But for me, it's just sharing information as I find it. And in the future, we're gonna go over things like the Nag Hammadi text. We're gonna go over things like the Apocrypha, the Maccabees. We're gonna go over the books of Enoch, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel according to Mary, all this stuff. So like, share, subscribe. If you like this kind of information, share it with somebody else who likes this as well. And let's converse as a community. Even if you have opposing views, guys, look, if you have opposing views and you think what I'm sharing is complete and utter bullshit, look, it doesn't matter. Like, let's get on a live and talk about it. You present your evidence and I present my evidence, and we compare evidence so we can all come to an informed decision, right? Because that's what science and discovery is all about. It's all about comparing the information we have and making the final decision based on that comparison. So, Rasta Ren out here again. Give thanks, everyone. Thanks for the support. Peace.